Imagine a single line of water, just 21 miles wide. That's shorter than a marathon, narrower than some rivers. And through this tiny gap, right now as you watch this, flows 20% of everything the modern world runs on, every single day. This is the Strait of Hormuz.
The Strait of Hormuz.
Iran has shut the Strait of Hormuz.
From allies to secure the Strait of Hormuz.
It's not just a waterway, it is the carotid artery of the global economy. And right now, it is under a level of tension we haven't seen in decades. If this artery gets severed, even for a single week, the lights in London could flicker, gas prices in California could double overnight. The global supply chain wouldn't just slow down, it would suffer a cardiac arrest. Here's what makes that terrifying. We already know this. We've known it for 40 years, and we still have no backup plan. But there is an idea, a proposal so enormous, it sounds like science fiction. A $100 billion canal, carved directly through solid mountain rock, designed to bypass the Strait of Hormuz, and bypass Iran entirely. It has been studied, debated, drawn on maps. So why doesn't it exist? Is it an engineering miracle waiting to happen? Or a geopolitical disaster hiding behind a blueprint? To understand the desperation behind this idea, you first have to understand what is actually at stake. Every day, roughly 20 million barrels of oil move through the Strait of Hormuz. That number is almost too large to feel real, so let's make it real. That oil is not just fuel for cars, it's the plastic casing on your phone, the fertilizer that grew the food in your kitchen, the energy-keeping hospital generators running right now, the jet fuel that got your last flight off the ground. On the other side of that 21-mile corridor sit some of the most oil-rich nations on Earth: Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Kuwait, Qatar, the UAE, countries that collectively sit on nearly half of all proven oil reserves on the planet. And almost every barrel leaving their ports has one exit, this one. Now you might be wondering, surely someone built an alternative. They tried. Saudi Arabia constructed pipelines that snake across the entire Arabian Peninsula to reach the Red Sea. The UAE went further. They built a dedicated pipeline running straight from their oil fields to the port of Fujairah, completely outside the strait. Both are extraordinary pieces of infrastructure, but here is the number that should make you uncomfortable. Even running at 100% capacity, all of those pipelines combined can move roughly 30% of what the tankers carry every single day. 30%. The world isn't just dependent on the Strait of Hormuz. The world is addicted to it. And as with any addiction, the dealer holds all the cards. Here's the part that most coverage quietly buries. The Strait of Hormuz has already been the scene of military confrontations, seized tankers, damaged ships, and standoffs that came far closer to real conflict than the headlines suggested. Warships from multiple nations patrol these waters simultaneously, right now. Insurance premiums for oil tankers have spiked so dramatically in recent years that some shipping companies began rerouting vessels thousands of miles out of their way just to reduce their exposure. But here is what makes it worse. Iran has explicitly threatened to close the strait, not once, multiple times, on the record. In 2011 and 2012, as nuclear negotiations collapsed, Iranian military commanders publicly stated they could, their word, easily block the waterway. Western naval forces surged into the region. Oil markets spiked on the statement alone. The world held its breath. The strait didn't close that time. But here's the thing about a lit fuse. It doesn't matter that it didn't go off last time. This is a place where one miscalculation, one commander making the wrong call on a tense afternoon, could send a shockwave to every gas station in America within 72 hours. So the question stopped being if something happens here. The question became, when it does, what is the plan? Look at a map of the Persian Gulf region. At the very northern tip of Oman, a jagged slab of land juts into the strait like a broken fist raised toward Iran. It's called the Musandam Peninsula. Now measure the distance between the Persian Gulf on one side and the Gulf of Oman on the other. In places, just a few dozen miles of land separate two bodies of water. A few dozen miles. For decades, engineers have been staring at that gap with the same thought. What if we just cut straight through? A canal, not a small canal. A massive deep water corridor wide enough to handle the largest ships ever built, called Very Large Crude Carriers, or VLCCs. These vessels are difficult to comprehend at human scale. Fully loaded, a single VLCC weighs over 300,000 tons. It takes nearly 3 miles to come to a complete stop. 3 football fields long, 15 stories tall above the waterline. A canal built for ships like this would allow tankers to leave the Persian Gulf and sail directly into the open Indian Ocean, bypassing the Strait of Hormuz completely. No Iranian patrol boats, no minefields, no geopolitical roulette, just open water. On paper, it is the cleanest solution in the history of energy infrastructure. So why, after decades of discussion, has not a single shovel touched that ground? Because the map is lying to you. The Musandam Peninsula is not flat desert. It is not soft sand waiting to be dredged. It is the Hajar Mountains, one of the most savagely rugged landscapes in the entire Middle East. Vertical limestone cliffs dropping straight into the sea, razor-edged ridges with no flat ground for miles, peaks climbing over 2,000 meters, more than 6,500 feet above sea level. Building this canal would not mean digging, it would mean destroying mountains, dozens of miles of them, and then keeping the walls stable enough for a 300,000-ton ship to pass through safely. The volume of rock that would need to be removed is nearly impossible to picture. Engineers who have studied this project don't measure the excavation in tons. They measure it in cubic kilometers. For perspective, the Panama Canal expansion, one of the greatest engineering achievements of the modern era, cost around $5 billion and moved through soft tropical terrain. The Musandam Canal would make Panama look like a weekend renovation project. Estimates start at $100 billion. Many projections climb toward $200 billion. Some analyses refuse to publish a number at all because the variables are too uncertain. And the timeline? Decades, at a minimum. But even if you solved every engineering problem, even if money was no object, you would still hit a wall that no machine on Earth can drill through. The Musandam Peninsula belongs to Oman. And Oman is in the most deliberate sense, the Switzerland of the Middle East. For decades, Oman has survived and quietly thrived by being friends with everyone. Iran, Saudi Arabia, the United States, Israel, all of them. Oman has maintained back-channel diplomacy with rivals that haven't spoken to each other in years. It has hosted secret negotiations that shaped the region's recent history. That neutrality is not an accident. It is Oman's greatest strategic asset. Now ask yourself honestly, why would Oman agree to turn its mountain range into a global energy highway? To Oman, those mountains are a natural shield. They provide distance from the conflict on the other side of the strait. The moment you carve a canal through them, you transform a fortress into a target. You invite every hostile actor in the region to draw a crosshair on your territory. Oman's actual development strategy for Musandam focuses on ecotourism, marine conservation, and sustainable infrastructure, not excavating its geography for someone else's energy security. Any canal would require Omani consent, but also something even harder to obtain: international agreement, Gulf state cooperation, decades of secured financing, and a military commitment from major powers to defend the route forever. In one of the most politically unstable regions on the planet, the engineering is hard, the politics may be impossible. But here is the twist that almost nobody talks about. Even if the canal gets built, even if every political and engineering miracle somehow lines up, it doesn't actually solve the problem. A canal doesn't remove a choke point, it creates a new one. Instead of the Strait of Hormuz, the entire world's oil supply now runs through a single artificial corridor, one that can be blocked just as easily. A grounded tanker, a targeted drone strike, a structural failure after an earthquake, in a mountain range that sits inside an active seismic zone. In March 2021, a single container ship, the Ever Given, ran aground in the Suez Canal. One ship, one accident. It blocked an estimated $9 billion of global trade every single day until it was cleared. That was an accident. Now imagine the same thing, in a narrow mountain canal, surrounded by hostile regional actors who know exactly what that corridor is worth. The world wouldn't be solving its most fragile choke point. It would be building a brand new one, with a $100 billion price tag and a giant target painted on it. So will the Musandam Canal ever be built? Right now, today, it remains exactly what it has always been: a paper megaproject, a dream that engineers sketch and accountants bury, a solution that looks perfect on a flat map and meets a mountain range the moment it touches reality. But history has a pattern with projects like this. The impossible doesn't become possible through careful long-term planning. It becomes possible when a crisis makes the cost of doing nothing finally catastrophically exceed the cost of doing something. Every tanker seizure in the strait shifts that calculation slightly. Every Iranian military statement moves the needle. Every time oil markets panic over a rumor, just a rumor, of disruption, the $100 billion price tag on a canal starts to look a little less insane. The world is gambling every single day on 2 miles of open water, 2 miles that carry 1/5 of global oil, 2 miles running alongside one of the most volatile borders on Earth, 2 miles standing between stability and a crisis that would reach every fuel pump, every grocery store, every household in the developed world, simultaneously. We have known about this fragility for more than 40 years, and we still have no backup plan. Mountains are hard to move, but a global economy with no alternative is far more fragile than any mountain range. The question was never whether the canal could be built. The question is, how bad does it have to get before the world decides it has to be? If this corridor disappears tomorrow, what would that mean for your world? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And for more deep dives into the projects and crises shaping our future, hit subscribe and join the journey. I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.